Hello and welcome. Today is Saturday, October the 4th, 2014. This is Paul Sandhu. Hello and welcome. Today is Saturday, October the 4th, 2014. I have on the line with me today Dr. Jim Willie, the Golden Jackass editor. I have on the line with me today Dr. Jim Willie, the Golden Jackass editor of the Patrick Letter. Dr. Jim needs no introduction on this channel, so without further ado, Dr. Jim needs no introduction on this channel.
Oh, good to be back. Good to be back, Dash.
Hello and
welcome,
we're
seeing an acceleration of really dangerous things and evidence. I believe we're seeing an acceleration of really dangerous things. They've got a lot of different names. I believe cabal, that the bad guys, giant crime they've got a lot of different names. Wall Street and the castles. But they're bringing out some of their ugliest weapons Wall Street and the castles, like but they're bringing out some of their ugliest weapons, which is basically an economy killer for Europe. War in Ukraine, and they're also bringing out their viruses, basically an economy killer. One of my biggest concerns that I've stated, and they're also bringing out their viruses, which is one of my biggest concerns that I've stated for a long time. That this is a fabricated virus. Yeah, not a fabricated realize that this is a fabricated laboratory-based virus. Not a fabricated proved virus, a fabricated laboratory-based virus, different human layers virus as a weapon is owned by the lots of different human layers put on it. And the patent is owned by the Atlanta Center for Disease Control official agency. Can you imagine on a virus disease official agency would have a patent to profit on a virus disease?
Yes, that's I was reading somewhere actually.
To profit from
like
it.
Bill Gates, yes, and his foundation that is heavily invested in vaccinations. Also, like Bill Gates and his foundation tremendously from growth of these viruses. So yes, stands to profit tremendously from growth of these viruses. So psyops are used for many purposes, and one of them, of course, is the money. So psyops are used for many purposes, and one of them, of course, is the money. So it always pays to follow the money.
On the Malaysian Airlines, including the guy who was going to testify against Gates and on the Malaysian Airlines for their development was going to testify against Gates and let's leave that alone now that we've touched it. For their development.
Okay, Jim. So it's been about 5 weeks since we last spoke.
Let's leave that alone now that we've touched it.
What? Okay, Jim. So it's been about 5 weeks since we last spoke. So
well, the biggest
what?
New item that I have.
Information do you have
it's
for
more
us?
like a development of an older item that I have. It's certainly maturing. More like a development and it eclipses some other point that I've made. It's certainly maturing. It's my item too and here. It eclipses some other point that I've made. It's my item too here. Disrupt plans to double the gold price. Now I have thought for quite a while that we were going to see, and this is based on. I have thought for quite a while that we were going to see, and this is based on Voice and extensive conversations with my gang and led by a mid-sized bank that would go bust. We thought a year ago that there would be a bank that would go bust, a mid-sized bank and it would lead to bigger consequences to bigger bank that would go bust. And it looks based on what we're seeing consequences to bigger banks with the Banco Espiritu based on what we're seeing like with Portugal recently with the Banco Espiritu Santo. Remember my point. I've made this many times in the last year or more. The big banks are lashed together. Remember my point. I've made this many times in the last year or more. The big banks are lashed together. Oh, I don't know what to call them. By derivatives, mutual oversight from favorable I don't know what to call them. Like mutual oversight from favorable uncles, mid-sized important banks. They're watching over. Every big bank has got like a big crew of little banks that they watch over to make sure that they're okay. Every big bank has got like a crew and they're using the printing press to redeem the worthless bonds. They're using the printing press to redeem the worthless bonds. Some of the sovereign bonds that are using the printing press to. So when a big bank goes on some of the sovereign bonds that are deeply damaged, Portugal did. When a big bank goes they rush to the ready, like they saw the damage Portugal did. The insurance, the CDSs, the controversy on the uncovered CDSs, the insurance, the CDSs, which act like controversy on the uncovered CDSs, the credit default swap policy, which act like for their investors, bond insurance for the bank, the derivatives, the CDSs didn't work real well. They did some reform of that. And anyway, the point is, the derivatives, the CDSs didn't work real well. They did some reform of that. Anyway, the point is, by just the issuance of new money, new aid, can be bailed out very quickly. It seems like the banks, by just the issuance of new money, new aid, and the sovereign bonds. And it seems like the banks, like Italian, the Forex, Spanish, and the sovereign bonds, debt, like Italian and all the currencies in Forex, government, they're debt, under control. All the currencies in Forex exchange stabilization fund run by the Department of Treasury and the U.S. government. That's like the major control run by the Department of Treasury and the U.S. government. J.P. Morgan. That's like the major control room. And then their side office is J.P. Morgan Investment Office, Chief Investment Office, CIO, Chief Investment Office. That's like the adjunct office, Chief Investment Office, CIO, Chief Investment Office. That's like the adjunct in the London Velvet Notice for the exchange. In the summer of 2012, you saw damage with the London Velvet Notice. 2012, the summer of 2012, the London Whale episode came out. Spring, I guess it was May and June. Fixed that 2012. Too. So they're very the London Whale episode came out in the sovereign bond arena too. So they're very good at patching and in the bank arena, the sovereign bond arena. What I'm hearing, and this is just in the last few weeks. So what I'm hearing, this is just very strong word. Few weeks from my best source. I'm hearing what's like very strong word. From my best source, instead, I mean not that what's coming from a contagion within the banks. What's likely instead, I mean not is coming from a Shanghai is going to go for a very what's likely instead gesture. Is it Shanghai is going to go for a very proper gesture toward justice in the gold market, move toward repricing the gold, toward justice in the gold market. Toward repricing the gold, call them prices, silver. They're really ratios versus the dollar. Right. I don't know what to call them. I call them prices, but you're seeing really an explosion of the dollar right now, which should be good for gold. You're seeing an explosion of the dollar right now, in the last 4 years. Gold, the money supply for dollars exploded. Supply, while the gold price 4 years, the money supply for the dollars exploded. The way markets should work. While the gold price has not. If you weaken the dollar, and that's contrary to the way markets should work. Supply. Then it's weaken the dollar, benefit, and it's not. So by having the Chinese are really fed up with what's going on, and they hold. And it's not. It's so funny to watch. The Chinese are really fed up with China might raise their official. It's so funny to watch 1,045 tons of China might raise their reserves. For gold, they might raise it up to 3 or maybe 5,000 government reserves. They're holding at least 15,000. For gold, they might raise it up to 3 or maybe 5,000. They don't like seeing they're holding at least 15,000. Market value is being played with. They don't like seeing New York and London. So here's what I'm hearing. I'm leading up to something here. By Shanghai is going to reprice. So here's what I'm hearing. Gold and silver. Something here, and I don't have exact numbers, but let's just throw something out there because it might be within the range. I don't have exact numbers, but let's just throw something out there because it might be within the range of what could happen. And that is they're just going to reprice gold to be at least double its current price. And that is they're just going to reprice gold at least double maybe 3,000. They're just going to reprice like 2,600, 2,800, maybe 3,000. They're just going to reprice in Shanghai. They're going to reprice gold price to be what they think is equilibrium in Shanghai. For bringing about balance. Reprice gold supply and demand. Be what they think is equilibrium for bringing about balance and the Shanghai supply and demand. Yes, like 100%.
Divergence in the London price and the Shanghai price.
Double the gold like 100%. London and New York they're going to double the gold price. And they're going to basically say F you. And New York this is the gold price that brings about near equilibrium. F you. We're working on the equilibrium, the gold price that brings about near equilibrium. We're working on the equilibrium, gold, and have been corruptly setting the price. We realize that London and New York have been refusing the redemption and have been corruptly setting the settlement of futures and have been refusing the delivery of gold. There's been no delivery of gold for 2 years in New York and London. On delivery of gold. There's been no delivery of gold for 2 years in New York and London. We in Shanghai are going to post this $2,880 gold price. We in Shanghai are going to post this $2,880 gold price near equilibrium between supply and demand, which is required in a fair market. Near equilibrium between supply and demand, which is required in a fair market.
Then that would mean that all the gold that's being sold would be sold in London or New York or being offered for sale, rather in reality would be sold in London or New York, or being offered for sale, whether in reality or not, pretty much wipe all the supply out, people will rush in to buy that up, wouldn't they?
My point is that there's no gold in London and New York to buy.
It would expose the fraud then.
My point is that there's no gold in London and New York for buying. It would expose the fraud to their derivatives. It would expose the fraud and if Shanghai does what I expect, to their derivatives. They might make a formal statement like, if Shanghai does what I expect, all right, New York and London, if you don't like this, a formal statement then like, arbitrage it. All right, New York and London, if you don't like the $2,800 then arbitrage it. You really think it's $1,200. If you don't like the then take all of your ample supply. You really think it's $1,200. Buy what you can over there. Then take all of your ample low price and sell it over here in Shanghai. But you don't have any low price and sell it over here in Shanghai. But you don't have any. They cannot. And so that will be a challenge New York and London as fraudulent arenas, and that will expose New York and London as fraudulent arenas. There are lots and lots of types of derivatives. The one that I'm referring to, now bear in mind there are lots and lots of types of derivatives. The one that I'm referring to, there are lots and lots of them, and they're not 4x to gold. There might be like a triangle between the euro, the dollar, and gold. It might be like a triangle between the euro, the dollar, various factors within that triangle. And it just I'm not a real expert in that, but I'm told various factors within that triangle are more than one. Yeah, more than one currency besides gold. Involved more than one. I'm sorry, more than one. Yeah, more than one currency besides gold.
With all this noises that have come out of the Western, not amazing though, Jim. Like with all media noises that have come out of the Western, that gold is establishment and the media in the past gold plays such a central role between their own dealings as yet financial instrument. Gold plays such a central role between their own dealings as heroin packets
sit side by side. But they also use heroin packets in Wall Street side by side with gold. So they've got a lot of different things they regard as money. Narcotics is the money. So they've got a lot of different things they regard as money. Narcotics is the money coming up. There's another reason why they like gold and totalitarian. There's another piece of evidence. There's another reason why they like gold, and not reason. There's another piece of evidence as to why they like gold. They try the cabal with their they try to stir up trouble, like in Libya. Should we call them players? A few people realize they try to stir up trouble, like in Libya. He was a nasty guy. A few people realize that even though Muammar Gaddafi was a nasty guy, emperor, and he won 5 United Nations awards for emperor. He won 5 United Nations philanthropy and for development of his country, and development of the water system, philanthropy, development of and for development of his country. But we saw fit to water system, run him out of smaller business palace. But we saw fit to kill him, run him out that we could steal his palace. 144 tons of gold. Kill him so that I steal his 140 firmly 144 that the entire movement against I make the point was secondarily the entire move weapons against towards Syria through our secondarily illegal use of weapons, but primarily to steal through our embassy's gold. Illegal use of the embassy. What we really did, primarily to steal U.S. Gaddafi's gold. So the cabal, the Wall Street bankers, the London bankers, the Langley guys working government in concert with them, the Wall Street bankers, the London bankers, the Langley guys working in concert with them all. They wanted to steal. What the syndicate really did of Libyan oil production. They wanted to steal, and they did, in the 20 years gold of Libyan oil production. What happened in Ukraine? And they did. Had their Maidan, they had their revolt, they had their coup d'etat led by Soros. They had their Maidan, they had their revolt, they had their coup d'etat led by Soros. Blackwater. What's the first act and deed that they did? Mercenaries. Well, the first thing was to move out $70 billion of oligarch money and put it in Swiss banks for safekeeping. Well, the first thing was to move out $70 billion of oligarch money and put it in Swiss banks for safekeeping. What's the second thing they did? They're showing the value of gold in their war movements. They're not. They're showing the value of gold in their war movements. Charges against Credit Suisse. They got a lot of hidden things like Switzerland. prosecution charges against Credit Suisse, secret accounts, Switzerland, accounts for Americans, supposed. They want to fold secret accounts under UBS where they have better control. To steal the Saudi gold that's in those under UBS where they have better control. So they show their cards all the time. That's in those two banks. Gold is a motive. So they show their cards all the time. And gold, I'd like to point out that as this in war. No, if and when this happens, I'd like to point out indication that I've been given. If and when this happens, this is a big indication that I've been given to be repriced. If and when this happens on the gold repricing, and you know that'll be a hot poker up the boy's ass. And you know that'll be a hot poker up the what will the effect boy's ass? How will the boys react? How will the banker cabal? What will the effect be? Western Europe. How will the boys react? How will the banker cabal? They're going to put their bond monetization Europe. And London their hypermonetary inflation. They're going to put their bond monetization in a very open way. Hypermonetary inflation. You're going to see a skyrocketing toward the derivatives in a very open way. 20 times. You're going to see a skyrocketing of volume. Hints and indications of 80 billion a month. It's going to be hints and indications of hints and indications of 80 billion a month. It's going to be hints and indications maybe $3 or $4 trillion, $1 to $2 trillion a month. Maybe a spurt 1 month, maybe 3 or 4 trillion. These $5.5 trillion, maybe a spurt 1 month is a one-time deal. These $5.5 trillion a month later, the derivatives, so it's a one-time deal. Explosion in the volume. Except that it happens again a month later. Not so much the bond monetization, it's going to cause an explosion in the volume. To cover not so much the bond monetization, by the but hypermonetary inflation. They call it QE, they call it bond monetization because it's diverted toward bonds. They call it whether QE, they're treasury bonds or mortgagation because it's diverted next wave is going to be directed whether they're treasury bonds or mortgage bonds. This next wave is going to be directed toward Forex, the major currencies, the pound, the euro, the Forex, the major currencies, Swiss franc. The pound, the euro, that's the shock wave they've got. And maybe to some degree the Swiss franc. This attack on the cabal, that's the shock wave they've got. And I've been told that it's very clever on the cabal, indirect, has been planned. And it takes the high road. It's very clever. You can't come back later and say, well, look what China did. And it takes the high road. They forced a couple of German and French banks to go bust. Look what they did. They're bad guys. They forced a couple of German and French banks to go bust. China tried to make legitimate the gold price. What you're going to hear is right. China tried to make legitimate the gold price. You can't really say, well, gee, that's a bad thing. Look how horrible that they are. The gold market. How horrible they You can't really say, well, gee, that's a bad thing. According to equilibrium that they are. Supply and demand. How horrible they There is no equilibrium. Correct. Supply and demand in the gold market as we know it. There is no equilibrium in supply and demand in the gold market as we know it. There is only brute force. And refusing people to deliver in gold contract fraud, which is what it is, and threatening gold, and they deliver you to sue them for contract fraud, which is what it is. They deny you, and they deliver you by saying dollars. Play ball with us, you want the gold. Boot you from the comments, and they threaten you by saying pariah. Play ball with us, or we'll boot you from the comments that you like crude oil, and you're pariah. Who knows? Trade here. In the other things that you like crude oil, soybeans, or can't trade anything because you want to make. Your point, you can't get gold from a gold contract. Anything because you want to make your point. Any other market, you can't get gold from a gold contract. Well, gee, you name any other market where you can't get X from an X contract.
So the Eastern Bloc, they are kind of fed up with Chinese, Russian. They've also been Eastern Bloc. They are kind of fed up with their fraudulent rules. They've also been forced to play this. They are the only boys big enough to take on the cabal rules, and
yes, they are. They are the only boys big enough that China and Russia will take them on. Yes, they are, and I think quite simple. Not a lot of China and Russia will take them on. They're fed up with their quite simple. Not a lot of different. I'm hearing Russia has at least 20,000 tons of gold. I'm hearing China has at least 15,000. I'm hearing Russia has at least 20,000 tons of gold. I'm hearing China has at least 15,000 tons of gold. They don't like that the West is setting in the East in huge volume. Without having any. China and Russia are also reacting to the Ukraine in the East in huge volume. Propaganda, lies, China and Russia are also reacting to the Ukraine The U.S. went in with their lies, their war, mercenaries, subterfuge, and the European mercenaries organized by Soros. Mercenaries, they did a coup d'etat. European mercenaries organized by Soros. I mean, it's just insane. They did a coup d'etat and they blamed it on Russia. The West is treating Russia. I mean, it's just insane. As I heard from a very smart, they're treating colleague. The West is treating Russia. The West is treating Russia like Sudan, and you can't do that. West is treating Russia like Sudan.
Right. Now, Jim,
and you can't do that.
You have on our shows, you have said that Germany's also leaning towards the East. Is that one of the motives that on our shows you have said that Germany's also leaning repatriation of their gold? Is that one of the motives that they had for requesting a repatriation of their gold from New York?
It's from a very, very good source who's been valued to me for quite some time. It's from a very, very good source who's been valued to me for quite some time. 2001. We heard all about it. Germany won the repatriation request in 2001. Oh gosh, right. We heard all about it. Germany won 2011.
You mean 2011?
We heard that they wanted Germany wanted their 330 tons of gold. We heard that they wanted Germany wanted their 330 tons of gold. And why then? But we never heard. It kind of fills in the blank that I heard. And why then? Through German. Well, it kind of fills in the blanks that I heard. And from the Voice. Through German tapped his channels and got the information. And from the Voice. The Voice tapped his channels and got the information. In early 2011, the German government was given a preview. In early 2011, the German government was given a preview. As the U.S. government gave a preview to the German government of their planned war. The U.S. government gave a preview to the German government. And the timetable was in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to work. And the timetable was in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to work the Russian to capture Ukraine. And Germany said, cut off Europe. You're going to do what? Energy supply. Are you crazy? And Germany said, are you nuts? You're going to do what? They're a supply of energy. Are you crazy? Supply of commodities. They're a big trade partner. What are you doing, you idiots in Washington? We want our gold back, you fools. What are you doing, you idiots in Washington? We want our gold back, you fools. We heard in early 2011 for a simple, innocent repatriation request following the one by Venezuela the year before. Repatriation request following the one by Venezuela the year before. Germany said, no, we don't want to be cut off from our energy and commodity supply. We don't like Germany said, no, we don't want to be cut off from our energy 3 years ago. Commodity supply. We don't like this. That's probably why Germany began 3 years ago. Full bore. That's probably why the NSA went in there. Trade secrets. Full bore. Learning of plans in the highest level of German government, trade secrets and collusion, if you will, with Russia. Plans in the highest level of German government identified 4 collusion, if you will, with Russia. Violations. So I've identified Germany has with the West, violations. In particular, big Anglo-Americans that Germany has. UK. With the West, like in particular, the Anglo-Americans, all through Siemens, their big telecom network. They do not like the NSA violations. Parliament and bugging. They're all through Siemens, their big telecom network. Head offices. They're all through their parliament when they have high-level meetings with the German government. The Merkel head offices. It's so bad that when they have high-level meetings with the German government, so that none of them are sitting inside their cell phones used as Western listening devices. That's the first violation. None of them are sitting inside. The second violation used as Western listening devices. Central bank inflation. The Germans have vivid memories of what happens with Euro central bank inflation. They don't want the Germans have vivid memories of what happens with hypermonetary inflation. They don't want and embark on a gigantic and the Euro monetization program and embark on a gigantic bond monetization program is primarily Treasury bonds, the one of the Fed in the United States. The Fed, the Euro central bank under Prince Draghi, they want to go through all kinds of other things. They want to do stocks. The Euro central bank under Prince Draghi, they want to go through all kinds of other things. They want to do stocks. They want to do Eastern European bonds. They want to do sovereign bonds from Southern Europe. The Germans are really fed up with the Euro Central Bank. The Bundesbank is their central bank. They are at odds with the Euro Central Bank. The Bundesbank is their central bank. Devices they are at odds, taking used by the Prince Draghi. Some of the principles Euro central bank, the ECB, instruments used by the Prince Draghi. They're basically calling their Euro central bank, the ECB, patches, the LTFO, and they're basically calling their. They each have acronyms. Recent patches, the finance operation, long-term finance, LTFO. They each have acronyms, but they've got it's a finance operation. ECB has LTFO. I can't remember, but they've got and the Draghi ECB has various super senior over sovereign bonds, which means they have higher priority than government bonds. Super senior over sovereign bonds, which means they have higher priority than government bonds. The courts say that this isn't legal. The structure of the European Central Bank. So the Germans, I think, of not so much the structure of the European Central Bank, but over the Germans. Ukraine, I think. War, not so much over cut off of their energy, but over the European Central Bank inflation. War, I think they're going to bolt and cut off of their energy. So and the German gold Bank inflation. I think they're going to cut off of energy. You've got the ECB. So you've got the German gold. You've got the NSA violations. Cut off of energy. You've got the ECB inflation. You've got the NSA violations. Germany, they're saying ally. These are four gigantic indictments against our ally. We'd like to cut the cord and. Our ally, the United States, incredibly difficult. We'd like to cut the cord. Giving lip service is that ever to the U.S. incredibly difficult, and saying things like, "Oh yeah, we support the sanctions to the U.S., Russia," and saying things like, "Oh yeah, we support the sanctions continue and violate the sanctions." Watch them work around the sanctions. We're getting a more open, violate the sanctions. It's even in the press. A more open Minister of Finance split. And other ministers even in the press, Germany, the Minister of Finance stating, and other ministers we cannot honor the commitments of NATO are openly stating that we cannot honor the commitments of NATO. That's pretty big. This is now pretty big. Close. That's pretty big. Boiling point. This is now reaching
NATO's kind of trying to
stretch
themselves pretty thin from what I've been reading. NATO's kind of trying to stretch themselves ISIS, thin from what I've been reading. Now they're having a debate of what kind of mission we're sending ISIS, Iraq and Canada. Now they're having a debate of what kind of mission we're sending to Iraq. So Germany leads the way out for the European countries, then I imagine there will be a lot more. So if Germany leads the way out for the European countries, then I imagine
France will follow immediately, and so will Austria, and so will Netherlands. And, France will follow those are some of the core nations of Austria, and so will Netherlands. Those are the central. Those are the ones that have the trade core nations. Those are the ones that aren't the central. Those are the ones that have the trade surplus. What we're seeing is those are the ones that aren't broke. With this Iraq situation, I don't want to go on and on. What we're seeing is a funny little comment. Clever way of putting it. Iraq situation. I don't want to go on and on, but I got a funny little comment. Clever way of putting it. Of the U.S. endless war policy of the U.S. government. So when you had some resolution in Iraq policy of the U.S. went against the U.S. So when you had some resolution in Iraq, Obama said we went against the U.S. policy. Well, yeah, we will. Maybe there'll be golf shoes. We won't return with boots on the ground. He likes golf. He just set the record for maybe there'll be golf shoes rounds of golf because he likes golf. He just set the record for so when he should be attending golf. As a security, highest security meeting, he should be attending staff meetings with the cabinet, security, highest security meetings, and intelligence briefings. Staff meetings with the cabinet. He's raising funds, so it just confirms my opinion of what the U.S. president is raising funds in the last 2 decades. It just confirms my opinion of what the U.S. presidents have permitted to go off and have funds. Their wives are permitted to go spend millions to go off and have fun, silly trips. Their wives are permitted to go spend millions on they give speeches for fundraising. I mean, when are we ever going to see in charge of fundraising? Tomatoes thrown at the president at a fundraising meeting. When are we ever going to see eggs and tomatoes thrown at the president at a fundraising meeting? I like to say that Germany geared up in advance, made an indication in the audience. I think early September. Germany at the Wales made an indication. This was, I think, early September. It did not get much press at the Wales NATO summit. The West controls the press. And it did not get much press because in the alternative press. The West controls the press. But what happened at the Wales NATO summit alternative press was Chancellor Merkel of Germany at the Wales basically came out and said. was Chancellor Merkel of Germany. Cannot be all honored. Came out and said, there are too many NATO commitments. They're too expensive. Cannot be all honored. They're too costly to the economy. There are too many NATO commitments. They don't make sense. Too expensive. We cannot honor all the NATO commitments. So now, a month later, we cannot honor all the NATO commitments. And it's coming out of other mouths in the German government, namely their ministers. And it's coming out of other mouths. I think Germany in the German government, namely their ministers. I've got two different sources who confirm the same thing. Going to split. That Germany has already made sources who confirm Russia and China. And these sources have already made commitments from Chinese clients of theirs. These sources have the confirmation coming from Chinese clients. And the word is all over the upper echelons of Russia and China. Banking Germany is already all over the upper echelons of Russia and China. Toward the BRICS, Germany is already working with Russia and China. Going to have a silver backing. The BRICS, precious metal, gold and silver backed BRICS currency. Have a silver backing. We're not going to get the nonsense. Gold and silver backed BRICS currency. Super sovereign. We're not going to get the Monetary Fund propaganda baskets of currencies. We're not going to get the International Monetary Fund basket of currencies. We're not going to get SDR, right, which consists of the dollar, the euro, the pound, and the yen. The SDR, right, which consists of the dollar, the euro, the pound, and the yen. It's not going to be expanded. We're not going to get the super sovereign yuan, the Russian ruble, gold, and silver. It's not from 4 to 8 in the basket. To the Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble, gold, and silver. China won't from 4 to 8 in the basket. Because the West wants to control the basket. China won't go along. Through the ratios, the West wants to control the basket, and Russia and China say no. Through the ratios, like your weightings, those are devices to keep and Russia and China say no. The ruble. We don't like your weightings. Those are devices to Wall Street are suppressing the ruble improperly right now. And we see how London and run on the ruble is going down. There are lots of questions about how the banking industry might operate in Russia. It's going down. There might be some questions about how the banking industry might operate in Russia. All imported prices in Russia and their economy. We're causing havoc. Russia turns around and says, well, you got sanctions against our banks and their economy. Gimmicking on Russia turns around and says, well, you got sanctions against our currency. No, we're not going to cooperate with your IMF interference rather on our ruble currency. No, we're not going to cooperate with your IMF on the internet. And isn't it interesting that the online, which is the publication on the internet, no, I don't know. It's kind of like the syndicated version of AP publication, but for the BRICS, and it's very immature at this point. By that I mean young and not developed. We're seeing stories very immature at this point. By that I mean young and not developed. The IMF we're seeing stories currency that this is a fake support in the IMF reformed currency competitions. This is a what they call a feint. In fencing with sword, you fake right and you move left. They have what they call a feint. Okay, it means that's common in football. It's called a head and shoulder you move left. You fake left and you bolt right. That's common in football. It's called a head and shoulder butt. You fake left and you bolt right. That's what they're planning with the BRICS. The Americans and the British do not expect what's coming. What they're planning with the Germans do because they're part of it. The British do not expect things are going on. This is major because they're part of it. Unbelievable things are going on. This is major chess going on.
Remember that most of the grandmasters have been Russian, and of course, if he will not be surprising if in the end most of the grandmasters have been Russian, so it would not be surprising if in the end checkmating is concerned. What about these funds like the GLD fund? What's happening? What about these funds like the GLD fund and the role that's happening in those as far as we talking about Russia and China being fed up? And the role that is going to replace and what you're talking about. So what about this GLD fund? Makes sense that they're going to replace.
Well, just to finish off your chess analogy, the Russians are not only chess masters. Well, just to finish off your chess analogy, they're holding a lot of pieces. Russians are not only chess masters. It's like you've got a chessboard, and Putin's got they're holding a lot of both of his knights, and it's like one of his two castles, and Putin's both of his bishops, still both of his knights, and he's working his way one of his two castles across the chessboard, both of his bishops. The West, and he's working his way. They only have one knight and one chessboard and castle. The West, and a lot of other pieces. They only have one knight, and by that I mean Russia is holding tremendous
a lot of other pieces
wealth.
are missing.
Tremendous
by that I mean
wealth.
Russia is holding
oil,
tremendous
gas, commodity
structural
wealth.
metals,
Tremendous
industrial
resource
metals,
wealth.
all kinds of things.
Oil, gas.
What they don't have is
structural metals,
agricultural metals,
output.
all
they
kinds
don't have
of things.
a lot
what
of
they
that.
don't have
we'll
is
get more of that later.
Agricultural output.
They don't have
They're not only
a
good
lot
at playing
of that.
chess,
We'll
they
get
got more
of that
pieces.
later. All right, so that's my point. It's a
They're not only good at
the
playing
GLD
chess,
is an
they got more
interesting thing
pieces.
you bring up. Okay, that's my point. It's a twofold side.
I've
The
mentioned
GLD is
the
an
GLD
interesting
in the
thing
past.
you bring up.
I've got one guy in my.
I've mentioned the
my
GLD in the
group of
past.
analysts.
I've got one.
We don't know what to
guy
call
in
ourselves.
one or two of us call it the brain trust. I like to call it.
We don't know what to call
staff
ourselves.
of colleagues. One
How
or
about
two
the
of us call it the
jackasses?
brain trust. I like to call it
they're
staff of colleagues.
They're often
How about
smarter
the
than jackass.
jackasses?
I wouldn't want to insult them.
No,
I have
no problem.
They're often
in
smarter
surrounding
than
myself with
jackass. I
smarter
wouldn't want to
people.
insult them.
With better connected
I have
people.
no problem in surrounding
whatsoever.
myself with smarter people.
Thank you, Jim.
With better connected people. No problem
That's good.
whatsoever.
Thank you, Jim.
A few months ago, maybe a little
That's good.
while longer ago,
Euro
a few months ago, maybe a little while
colleague,
longer, trusted
ago,
colleague, very bright
Euro
fellow with London banking experience.
my colleague,
he said the
trusted
GLD,
colleague,
very bright fellow,
is really
with London
a
banking
securitization
experience. He said
golden
the GLD
motion
from
is
the
really
many
a
securitization
global mining firms
of golden motion.
Here's what I
from
mean by that.
many
Global mining
forget
firms.
for a moment. Put aside for
Here's
a
what
moment.
here's what I mean by
GLD
that.
actually has some inventory.
Just forget
Put
aside
for a
that
moment.
fact.
Put aside for a moment that
GLD
focus
actually
on
has
the
some
golden
inventory.
motion.
Put
You got
aside that
Barrick. You
fact.
got Newmont. You got
And
focus on
Royal.
the golden motion.
You've got
you got Barrick.
Goldcorp.
You've got the South
Newmont.
Africans.
You've got
lots
Royal.
and lots
You've
of
got
different
Goldcorp.
You've got the South
gold
Africans.
companies
You've got lots and
produce
lots
gold.
of different major.
Well, when they're done
gold
producing
companies
it
through
that
their
produce
milling
gold.
process, and it
Well,
reaches
when
a
they're
certain
done producing
high
it
concentration level
through their milling
process,
it
and it
becomes
reaches a certain high
essentially
concentration level,
a gold bar.
and its
It
concentration might
becomes
not be,
essentially
3 nines or 4
a
nines,
gold bar.
but it
And
might
its
be in the 90s.
concentration might not
so
be,
that's going to
3
have
nines
some
or 4
value.
nines.
But it might be in the 90s.
But
so
the inventory
that's
gets
going
moved.
to have
It's
some
in
value
shipment to the
as
refineries.
inventory. But
So what
the
the
inventory
clever
gets
Wall
moved.
Street
It's in big
shipment
mining
to the
companies
refineries.
have done. Is
So
they
what the
found
clever
a device
Wall Street
where you can
and
invest
big mining companies have
in
done
something called the
is they found
SPDR
a
Gold
device
Trust, where you can invest,
aka the GLD
in something
fund.
called the SPDR
And some of the
Gold
inventory
Trust,
there is not stacked
aka
in
the
shelves.
GLD fund.
It's
and some of the
output from the
inventory
mills
there is not
going
stacked
to
in
and
shelves.
from the refineries
It's output
that eventually
from the
find their
mills
way to the COMEX.
going to and from
This is
the
the gold
refineries
in motion.
that eventually
It's
find
like,
their
you know,
way
you
to
got
the
a
COMEX.
whole lot of tennis shoes.
This is the gold
or a
in
whole
motion.
lot of television
It's like,
sets.
you got a whole lot
And
of tennis
they're
shoes
in motion
or a
on
whole
the trucks
lot of
going
television
across country
sets.
to Walmart, say.
And they're in motion.
Well, someone owns
on
them.
the trucks going across
Someone
country
owns
to
the
Walmart
inventory of
say.
what's being shipped.
Well, someone owns
Well,
them.
they did a clever device.
Someone
owns the
and
inventory
it's
of what's being
loaded with
shipped.
fraud.
Well,
But
they did a clever
much
device.
of the inventory
it's
reported by
loaded with
GLD,
fraud.
we
But
believe
much
is
of
gold
the
in motion
inventory
from the mining
reported
companies.
by
They're down
GLD,
to 767
we believe is gold
tons.
in motion from the mining companies.
It
They're
started
down
with
to
This is not even
767
necessarily
tons.
refined.
It started with
bullion.
bullion.
This is not even
in
the
process
process
of
of
perhaps
getting to that refined.
Yes, there's
bullion
something they
is
call
still
a dory
in the
bar,
process of
and I think
perhaps
that
getting
comes.
to
I'm
that
not sure, but I think it
Yes,
comes.
there's
My
something
guess.
they call a
It
dory
comes from
bar,
and I think
French,
that comes. I'm not
D
sure, but I think it
apostrophe
comes. My guess.
of ore.
It comes from
Right.
gold.
French
Of gold.
D
So
apostrophe
a dory bar
OR
is a 90%
of ore
or more
Right.
gold.
refined
Of
gold.
So a dory bar is a 90%.
It might not be a bar. It might be
more
just a big,
refined
big, ugly
gold
hunk
bar.
that
Right.
It might not be a bar. It
rectangle.
might be just a big.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
big,
perfect when
ugly
it enters the
hunk
refinery process.
that resembles
It's
a
a rectangle. The
Yeah.
GLD started
perfect when it enters
with
the refinery process.
1,350,
All right, so
1,340
The
tons.
GLD started
When it got
with
below
1,350,
1,000,
1,340
we started
tons.
before the whole concept of
When
gold
it got
motion
below
came in.
1,000,
We started wondering, what's the critical point motion for the GLD? We started before problems arise. Well, what's the critical point for the GLD before problems arise? I think it's under 1,000. And Euroraj way back a year and a half ago, around 700. I think it's under 1,000. Once they get anywhere near 700 tons, they're going to have extreme strain. Once they get anywhere near 700 very little GLD, they're going to have gold inventories of steel in the system to raid. And very little GLD. Do that is the big banks and only the big banks have the privilege. And the way they do that is the big banks and only the big banks have the privilege. Only the big banks have the privilege. I'll get to this thing in a minute because it's really important. These stocks only the big banks have the privilege and putting together baskets in the form of gold. These stocks. If you say, well, I've got 22 shares demanding redemption in the form of GLD or 2,200 shares of GLD or 150 shares of GLD, or 2,200 shares of GLD, or gold, they'll say 150 shares of GLD, and I'd like to redeem and get my gold, they'll tell you to go get lost. Well, some big players have met the prospectus requirements, and they're told to get lost anyway. Some big players have not told to get lost, or the big banks, and they're told to get lost anyway. So the clearly, ones not told to get the rating channels banks that are trying for the comics come so clearly through GLD, the rating not channels, exclusively, but they for the GLD come. I am of the GLD, not exclusively, but they include the GLD. Guess, but it's certainly not. I am of the opinion. This is just not based on a tremendous amount of information, but it's certainly not thinking rock bottom zero. It's not based on a tremendous amount of information. Is 600 to 700 bottom zero for the GLD no more to raid. Is 600 to 700 tons out of the GLD inventory. There'll be no more to raid of replenishing physical bars out of this GLD inventory when we get to 600 to 700 tons. And we're in that ballpark in this right now. Manner. When we get to 600 to 700 tons. What I mean and we're in that ballpark right now. We're of the inventory claimed by the GLD. What I mean by that is that I believe at least the inventory claimed by the GLD exactly the gold I believe at least 600 tons on flights exactly from the big mining companies to and from refineries that eventually find their way from the big mining companies and I'd like to and from refineries that eventually find their way to the COMEX. It's not exactly a GLD topic, thing about a year ago, Scotia Makata. It's not exactly a GLD topic, but subsidiary of about a year ago, Scotia Makata, Canadian big bank, which is a subsidiary of Scotia. It used to be a very reputable gold bullion big bank. Right. Well, I don't think so anymore. It used to be a very reputable they've signed contracts gold bullion bank in Satan's service. Well, I don't think so anymore. Because they're making available their legitimate inventory service for the purposes of aiding, making available Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, for the purposes of aiding. If you look at the actual Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Citigroup, because if you look at the actual movement, you see all over the place in the last year, where they provide details to one of the others. All over the place. You see a lot of movement from the others, Scotia, but you see to one of the others. You see a lot of movement from the others.
Actually, that's a question one of my listeners had one time. Is there any? Actually, that's a question one of my listeners had one time. Is the big one any in Canada and even in left in Scotia Makata? And I think they used to sit on the LBMA. I'm not Canada and even in the world, but yes. And I think they used to sit on the LBMA. I think that Scotia's going to get drained, and I'd love to know what promises were given to them for Scotia's going to get drained, and I'd love to know. I don't use the term lightly. Many Wall Street bankers signing up in Satan's service. I don't use the term lightly. These are not Christians. They are not. Are Satanists. Many of these fascists are Satanists. And some of them are hiding within they're not Jews. Religions. But they're Satanists. And some of them are hiding too much of that. It's just extremely ugly stuff. Satanists. Because they have child sacrifices. I don't want to get into too much of that. It's just extremely ugly stuff because they have child sacrifices.
Not just some of them.
I would agree.
All of them at the top.
I would go as to top echelon. Just some of them, I would say.
Well, it's hard to say. They don't exactly publish their data. Right. And well, it's hard to say because I think they've got very tight relationship with the Satanists. We should really move along because I think they've got very tight relationship with the money handlers in the Vatican, not the College of Cardinals. The two the money handlers in the Vatican, not the College of Cardinals.
Very different
houses of the Vatican. The ones run by the Jesuits
very different houses of the Vatican.
A real slap.
The ones run by the Jesuits
are Satanists.
All right, so I think the GLD investors,
the name
sum
of
it
Jesus.
up, Dash. All right, so
the dumbest guys
I think the GLD investors.
So one day they're going to be left holding this
the dumbest
piece of
guys
paper,
in the room.
which is one day they're going to be left holding this
anything
piece
at all.
of paper,
Not worth the ink.
not worth
to put on it.
anything at all. Okay.
They're running. The boys are running out of this golden motion to raid, and notice some of the exacerbation running out of this golden motion to raid supply. And notice some of the exacerbation that has happened in gold supply. They had to shut down the big barracks property project. They had to shut down the $1 billion into Pascualama property project in Chile on the Argentine border. All right, well that's a lot of inventory that got taken away. It's just not coming on the Argentine border. All right, well that's a lot of inventory that got taken away. It's just not coming online. Giant mile-long. And then you had the mudslide. They're still digging out in Utah with the giant mile-long. This is a point that we're going to get to. They're still digging out of that. We might just go to the point number 5 here. This is a point that we're going to get to. We might just go to the point number 5 here, Dash, because it fits. We can get the
really constrained. So you're going to talk about that the supply is going to get really constrained and non-existent, looking ahead into the new gold supply.
Yeah, the mining companies are having to do investments. Yeah, the mining companies are having to logistics, to do investment of projects when the price of their product is being suppressed. Management of projects. They're making this when the price of their product is being
suppressed. Does not support new exploration, and probably $1,200 gold does not support new exploration, and probably is not profitable for the gold that is for the companies. Even now, at that price, the gold that they're actually bringing out of the ground.
For the marginal properties, yeah. So you take a property where they really needed a $1,330 or a $1,300. Take a property where they really needed a $1,330 or a $1,300. They say we're suspending operations on that.
Profitable.
Well, and what they're doing is they're focusing on the best operations on that with a $900. What they're doing is they're focusing on the best properties, like the ones that make money on a $950. They can make money on a $1,020 cost. So they can make money on a $950 cost. They can make money on a $1,020 cost. Profitability projects, all the deposits, they're getting put into overdrive. Biggest profitability marginal properties are put to the side. They're getting put into overdrive. Companies are actually accelerating. The marginal properties are put to the side. Gold concept, so these mining companies are actually accelerating. Well, wait till the price goes up. Gold concept, and you'll see that start seeing they're still not producing. Wait till the price goes up. What we're seeing now. They're still not producing a lot more gold. 2012, what we're seeing now, I said that we're probably going to see a decline. I made a projection in 2013. I said that we're probably going to see a decline in volume. In 2013, and we did not. It was pretty much flat or slightly positive in volume. But 2014 is the year pretty much that the decline is slightly positive. And here's kind of why I got it wrong. That the decline is coming. And here's kind of why I got it wrong. What went wrong? What did I not see? It's part of the science. And how can I learn from that for the next forecast? What I did not see is something that got pointed out to me from that when I made the forecast. What I did not see, well, we'll see. They told me that the contracts are long term. When I made the forecast, and I told them, well, we'll see. They told me that the contracts are long term. So if they've got an obligation, they tend to be 2 and 3 years. They tend to be even more. So if they've got an obligation and they got a contract from a bank in the form of covenants to meet debt and they got a contract through a bank in the form of covenants. Well, then they're going to bloody well go through with the output and not make much money or have a small loss. Well, then they're going to bloody well go through with the output and not make much money or have a small loss. Property and all kinds of weird problems like violations of covenants, the length of property and all kinds of durability. So I got wrong the length of contract, longevity of some contracts, durability. And now you're starting to hear that with some of the mining companies. They say, well, longevity of some contracts, that the obligations for that contract, some of the mining companies, and we're not going to renew that. So we're going to mothball this project. The obligations for that contract ended. And we're not going to renew that. So we're going to mothball this project because the contract is ended. Now, in the news, in the mining industry news. No, it's not what I'm hearing. This is now in the news, in the mining industry news. To expect the gold output to decline by about 50%. We have. It's going down. In the next couple of years. This is like an assurance. Unless we get a change in the gold price. We have. It's going down. So this is like an assurance. And there are no new discoveries anywhere. And there's a reason for that. And there are no new discoveries. So when you don't have the profitability for that, from a good, fair gold price, it not only so when you don't have the profitability from a good, fair, borderline profitable, it not only makes the projects you're cutting into the borderline profitable at all, like discovery, exploration. You're cutting into the extraneous areas of business. This is going to get really weird. Exploration.
So that this is going to get really weird for people who have been, lately questioning their belief that gold is something that they should hold. Lately questioning their belief for the future because if gold is indeed repriced, this will bode well for them for the future because if gold is indeed repriced like say in Shanghai, which is huge, then some point going down in the future, possibly the near future, huge, looking at some moves in the future. Possibly the near future, paper price would be looking at some significant moves.
Well, I don't expect the lower volume of gold output to affect. Well, I don't expect price on the paper side. Lower volume of gold output to go down, and not react at all. Paper side, in fact, to the actual operation down, and not react at all. They're basically going to wreck the gold mining industry in order to protect the mining industry. They're basically going to wreck the gold mining industry in order to protect the incidents. But what they're not going to be able to protect themselves from is the Chinese repricing big incidents. But what they're not going to be able to something like 2,700 is the Chinese repricing the gold. A couple other points here regarding the mining companies. It's not just the suppressed gold price. A couple other points here regarding the mining companies. It's not just the suppressed gold price. I mean, do you want to invest in something where the output has a suppressed price? Do you want to use leverage of an industry? I don't. That's why I told my clients in early 2008 to get out of the mining industry. I don't. That's why I told my clients in early 2008 to get out of the mining gold and silver price. It might go down, might go up, might go down, might go up. And don't worry about the gold and silver price. It might go down, might go up, might go down, might go up, but might go down a lot. LBMA are destroyed. There are other points that when the put at risk the mining companies are destroyed. It's things like there are other points that operation expenses the mining companies until recently. It's things like oil price, operation expenses when until recently, cement price, oil all price, these different costs, they were rising. Lumber price, and they're not rising right now because we're in the end game, as I like to call it. They were rising, and they're not rising right now because we're in the end game, as I like to call it. We're in the end game now, where the dollar's my own little staff likes to call it. And we're in the end game now, where the dollar's. I made comments in the last year. I made some comments. I should interject here. The end game will be marked. I made comments in the last year or more. Everything. Against the end game will be marked oil, against gold. By the dollar will be rising against competitor major currencies. The dollar will rise and rise and rise. The dollar will be rising against competitor major currencies. The dollar will rise and rise and rise. Then environmental concerns. The local jurisdictions say you're polluting our water. You got runoff from the local jurisdictions say you're polluting our water. You got labor problems. You're not paying the workers enough. Operations. You've got mining companies. Then they get a lot of labor problems. You're not paying the workers enough. You have cost of living increases for making a lot of money. It's really not trickling down. They can't get increases for their wages to cover the higher price of food. All these things are causing increases for their wages to cover the higher price of food. Like Chile. All these things are causing. Big governments to bring a halt to certain governments like Chile, Indonesia to bring a halt, Malaysia bring a halt to certain projects, copper and Indonesia to bring a halt, important metals, Malaysia bring a halt. It's not just problem about the budget and other important metals. The Australian mining companies, this problem about the very important so important. They're seeing a 30% mining companies, which are a very important niche for exploration. They're seeing a 30% past year in their budget. And it's going to continue into this year. I'd like to see the mining companies, and it's going to continue into this year. Strike. Not against. I'd like to see the mining companies actually do a strike. Operations. Not against. I'd like to see them do a strike and say we're not going to supply gold operations anymore. We're not going to supply your vehicle for gold in motion in the GLD anymore. We're not going to supply your vehicle for gold in motion. And we've got some new investors. We're going to stockpile our output. And we've got some new investors, $1 billion a year to continue our operations. X $100 million or X $1 billion a year to continue our operations. And maybe Japan, because they're doing Korea and some other Asian countries, India, and maybe Japan and maybe Korea and some other Asian countries, India, companies. For the right of buying gold, investment capital to the mining companies, a mere 1,600 the right of buying gold. Say accumulated a mere stockpile of inventory, but it's a major challenge for the mining companies because how do they pay their workers now? How do they? But it's a major challenge for the mining companies because how do they pay their workers now? How do they pay their China's not cooperating in that direction. What they're doing instead is they're just China's not cooperating in that direction. What they're doing instead is they're just buying mining companies. They're buying significant. It's going to get very hairy. Western mining companies. And I'm different. It's going to get very hairy. I don't really go, oh my gosh, look what they're doing to the COMEX gold price. And I'm different. I just laugh at them. I don't really go, oh my gosh, look what they're doing to the COMEX gold price. I just laugh at them. I don't know why they haven't done a force majeure yet. I don't think they want the controversial publicity. I don't know why they haven't done a force majeure yet. I don't think they want the controversial null and void of a force majeure where a lot of contracts are just deemed null and void because of adverse conditions in the market. Anything because the court of law in the United States is really quite a joke. You can't prove anything because the court of law in the United States
force majeure wouldn't happen in isolation anyways. It would also be some other markets. Force majeure wouldn't happen in isolation anyways. It would also be some other markets. I would imagine that would happen altogether.
Well, not just in the gold we got one topic left, Dash, and let's try to fit it in. We don't need to spend too much time on it. We got one topic left, Dash, and let's try to fit it in.
Absolutely, go right ahead,
We don't need to spend too much time on it. Okay, I thought you were going to ask a question.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Okay, I thought you were going to ask a question.
State the topic and give us the info. No.
There's a very curious
state the topic
event going on. It's very hard, curious to understand completely. It's very hard, thorny. It involves the highest powers of the elites. It's very thorny. It involves the highest powers of the hierarchy on planet Earth. As a preface, level in Basel, Switzerland, the hierarchy. There's a bank called the Bank for International Settlements. In Basel, Switzerland,
there's a bank of central banks. That's the central bank of central banks is how it's defined. At least that's the bank of central banks. That's the central bank of central banks is how it's defined.
It's almost like they're on a public relations campaign in the last 30 years to change some of their images. It's almost like they're on a public relations campaign in the last 30 years to change some of their images. Right before 1900, I don't want to get into their conference at the very end. They weren't really before 1900. They had a show their identity then, but now they do. They weren't really too reluctant to show their identity then, but now they do show reluctance. Let's just call them the central bank of central banks. Identity and agendas. We hear about. Let's just call them the central bank of central banks and rules. We hear about the banker overlords, Basel Switzerland, BIS, who make rules on what banker overlords capital ratios must be maintained and make rules on what bank can be considered capital ratios must be maintained and what they're the rule can be considered. All right, they're the justifiable capital. Okay, so if they're the rule makers, why are they making an appeal to the BRICS nations? If they're the overlords, why are they making an appeal secure a useful to the BRICS nations in the next chapter? And I secure a useful role to the gold trade standard, and I define the next chapter following return maybe to the gold trade standard, perhaps, and with eventually gold trade settlement, maybe side by side currencies. You can't have gold trade settlement without some kind of a gold instrument. Gold-backed currencies. You can't have gold trade settlement without some kind of a gold instrument. Short-term gold. And what I'm hearing is a gold trade note used as a letter of credit. If you don't lay out your gold capital, you don't have a letter of credit. You can't lay out your capital. If you don't lay out your gold capital, you don't have a letter of credit. Basically, the BRICS nations led by Russia and China are planning to have trade. Basically, the BRICS nations led by Russia and China are planning to have trade by secured bullion on the credit side. That is what I think very short-term credit bank is going to be, and the BRICS Development Bank has got a false name. It's really going to be the BRICS Central Bank. And the BRICS Development Bank has got a false name. It's really going to be the BRICS Central Bank of gold, where they're going to hold a lot of gold. I think a shitload. All right, so why is the BIS appealing to the BRICS leaders? All right, so why is the BIS appealing to the BRICS and some of my emails? Why are they appealing to the BRICS nations for a useful role? Why are they appealing to the BRICS nations? We can provide a useful service for your new system. We can provide a useful service for your new professional banking. We have a history of doing professional accounting and oversight. We have a history of useful to the professional accounting and oversight. Okay, it's like the wolf. We could be useful knocking on the hen house farm building. It's like the wolf saying, knocking on the hen house farm building. Want us to be guards? Saying, we're pretty good at keeping nasties away. Want us to be guards? Okay, yeah, we're wolves. We're pretty good. But we can be useful. Nasties away. We're good at counting chickens. We're wolves. And we're good at understanding. We're good at counting chickens. Hundreds of chickens you can have at this layer. At understanding the food supply at a lower level. Hundreds of chickens you can have at this layer. Collapse of the whole platform for too many chickens on that lower level. Okay. We're really good having a collapse chicken farming platform for too many chickens on that level. Okay, we're really
Jim, you know,
good
just to
chicken
give
farming.
You, perhaps present another viewpoint. But Jim, you know, there is some truth that these guys do have. Perhaps present another viewpoint. In this department. Now there is some truth that these guys do have a history of experience in this department. Do you not think that the Russians and the Chinese and the BRICS do not? So do you not think that if they could actually give them some expertise, you know, if their wolfing tendencies could be kept in check? You know,
to me it's kind of like the 1913 Federal Reserve Act. Let's get these experts in banking to manage the U.S. Central Bank, and let's try to stop these crises that seem to manage the U.S. Central Bank, and let's try to stop these crises. We don't want to give the wolf a role, because once he's inside, we don't want to give the wolf a role, because once he's inside, he might start using some of his influence. Offer them bribe good heroin deal. Minister of Finance in Russia. Offer them good access. Offer them children. Good heroin pedophiles. Offer them good access to children. I have no idea what else they might offer. Maybe what they'll offer is more simple things. What else they might offer? Give us a junior role. Maybe what they'll offer for the finance committee of your BRICS Central Bank. Give us a junior role. We're going to release for the finance committee of your BRICS Central Bank. China. Or else we're going to release viruses, and furthermore, Russia and China engineer that you don't have cures for. We do to wall off, and furthermore, we'll engineer like we're doing in California. To wall off, so observe California like we're doing in California. So observe California as an example of our success weather engineering for creating drought. We've already used the HARP weather engineering against China in the last 10 years. We've already used the HARP engineering. They've got some rivers that have dried up. I think there's something like 7 rivers that are in the. They've got some rivers that have dried up. I think there's something like 7 rivers. 3 of them are in trouble. In the province. Okay, the wolf, Beijing is, and 3 of them are in trouble. Might ask for a junior role. So, okay, the wolf. I'd like to give them a role, water boy. Might ask for a junior role. You can clean out I'd like to give them a role, water boy. Shit. You can clean out, operate the hen house, and you can deliver pails of water, and you can make sure the plumbing works for the water. But we don't want you to deliver pails of water, and you can make sure the plumbing works for the water. But we don't want you inside, except that's the role I want to give them, to clean out the shit in the coops. It's latrine duty. I want to give them. That's what I'd like to give the BIS. It's latrine duty.
I don't know
That's what
how
I'd like
it's
to give the
turn out.
BIS, but I think the BIS is going to get kind of.
I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Remember back when G7 became
I think
G8
the BIS
and Russia
is going to get kind
had the rights to sit in.
Remember back when G7 became G8
and
China
Russia
had the right to sit in the hallway.
The rights to sit in.
Okay, that's the kind of thing I'd like to give
China
the
had the right to
BIS
sit
the
in the
BRICS
hallway.
meetings. Let them sit in the hallway and be the first ones
I'd like
briefed.
to give the BIS
While they have
for the BRICS
latrine
meetings.
duty, let them
Cleaning
sit
out
in the
the
hallway
chicken
and be
coops
the
of their
first ones
shit.
briefed. While they
Now,
have
what do you say
latrine
to some
duty,
of these
cleaning out the chicken
people in
coops of their
alternative
shit.
media, particularly that? Now, what do you say to some of these
that the BRICS
people in alternative media, particularly that suggest that the BRICS themselves are actually controlled by?
I wish I were an expert in that.
Western,
I doubt the story. Some of my best.
I wish I were an expert in that.
It's not
true.
I doubt the story.
I'm not hearing a lot of
evidence.
Sources
are
saying
it's not
when
true.
they claim it's not true.
I'm not hearing.
I'm
a
hearing
lot of
stories.
I gotta emphasize. I am not an expert
in this.
I'm hearing stories and opinions.
Once things are
put on the table as to how
things
should be
arranged.
arranged. I just have opinions
of
giving
latrine
things are put
duty
on
to
the
the
table
BIS
as to how things should be arranged.
But
giving
this is
latrine
very
duty to the
complicated.
BIS for the
There's a
BRICS
lot of
Central Bank.
stories.
But
Rothschilds
this is
were
very
booted out of the
complicated.
Kremlin.
There's a lot of
2 years
stories
ago
that the
Rothschilds
were
were
booted
booted
out
out
of the
of the Kremlin.
Kremlin. Control
2 years ago.
95% of the world's
And the
central
Rothschilds,
banks.
for those who don't know,
The ones that don't
control
control 95% of the world's
Iran,
central banks. The ones that don't control
Syria,
are Iran
and North Korea.
Syria,
Well, maybe I'm understating it.
and North
maybe
Korea.
they control more than 95% of central
Well,
banks.
maybe
it's
I'm understating
98%
it.
of central
Maybe they
banks.
control more than
So,
95%
the
of
Rothschild
central banks. Maybe it's
family
98%
was
of
insulted
central
by
banks.
Putin and the
So
Kremlin.
if the
It seems
Rothschild
to me
family was
like
insulted by Putin and the Kremlin,
that was the case, and I'm
It
not
seems
saying it
to
definitely
me
was, but if
like
that was the case, I'm trying to make a
if that
conditional
was the
argument
case,
here,
and I'm
because
not
I'm
saying
not
it
an
definitely
expert
was,
in
but
this.
if that was the case,
And
I'm trying to make a
It's
conditional argument here,
to,
because I'm not an
to support
expert
what
in
you're
this.
saying. I think it's impossible
And
to be an expert in this because none of us are going to have. I think it's impossible to be an expert in this because none of us are going to have the inside track into what really goes on at those levels. From a movie quote or somebody, and if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. So basically, this information is never really going to be available to people at our level. So this information
Right,
is
and
never
that's why I
really
try to
going to
make
be
a
available to people
speculative
at our
argument
level.
in the form
So
of a
we can only
conditional
speculate.
statement.
Right, and that's why
If
I
the
try to make
Rothschilds
a
were
speculative
insulted
argument in the
by
form of a
being pushed
conditional
out of
statement.
If
Say
the
finance
Rothschilds were
roles
insulted
in the Kremlin
by being pushed
That's
out
what I
of,
heard from a couple
say,
of
finance
very well-informed
roles
people
in the Kremlin.
If that was the
And that's
case,
what I heard
and they
from
had
a couple
their,
of
let's
very
say,
well-informed
feelings
people.
hurt,
If
to
that
the point
was
where
the
they
case,
want some vengeance,
and they had their,
then I believe
let's say,
the
feelings
Ukraine war
hurt
is exactly
to
that.
the point where they want some vengeance, then I
Now,
believe
the
the
Rothschilds
Ukraine
have
war
some
is
history
exactly that with the Russians.
Now,
Back
the Rothschilds
in
have some history.
sometime around
the
1900
Russians.
and 1910, right
Back
around
in
that period, sometime around
during
1900 and 1910,
Tsarist,
right around
the
that
late days
period,
of the Tsarist Empire,
the Romanov
during the,
family was
the
Tsar.
Tsarist,
The late days of the
Right.
Tsarist
and
Empire.
they told
the Romanov family was
the
Rothschilds, we don't want you
Right.
and
to bring your
they
banking
told
expertise into
the
Russia.
Rothschilds, we don't want
And
you
Rothschild,
I
to
don't know
bring
which
your
one of the
banking
Rothschilds. There's so
expertise
many
into
of
Russia.
them, and they're all Satanists.
And Rothschild,
none of them
I don't
are
know
nice
which one of the
guys, and they like
Rothschilds,
to
there's so
just
many of
create
them,
a war
and
here and there.
they're all
or create
Satanists, and
the
none of them
Soviet
are nice
Union.
guys,
What
and
the,
they like
what
to
the
just
Rothschilds
create a war here and
said
there, or create
to
the
Romanov
Soviet Union.
was, what the
We'll be
Rothschilds
back, said.
So they funded the Bolshevik
Romanov
Revolution and
was,
toppled the Romanovs.
we'll be back.
And had them all
So they
executed.
funded the
yeah,
Bolshevik
he was
Revolution
back. And toppled the
Rothschilds
Romanovs.
were back.
And had them
And
all
not only did they
executed. So
help
yeah,
to
he was
support
back.
Karl
The
Marx
Rothschilds were
as
back.
the,
and not only
what's
did
the
they
word?
help to
Ideologue,
support,
Karl Marx,
the high
as the,
priest, but
what's
they
the word?
funded
Ideologue,
the high priests of fascism
the
at the
high
same time.
priest in Central
But
Europe.
they funded
I'm talking
the
about the
high priests of
Rothschilds
fascism
funding
at the same
both
time.
sides
In Central
the
Europe.
expert
I'm
in
talking about the
creating
Rothschilds
wars
with
funding
both sides.
both
Is
sides
the Rothschild.
The expert in creating wars with both
I think
sides
we got
is the
some
Rothschilds.
very dangerous situations right now.
So
because
I think we got.
it could
very
be, if
dangerous
this argument is
situations
true,
right now,
it could be that many of
because
the it could be
bankers
if this
in the
argument is
Rothschild
true,
camp
it could be that many
are
of
in
the
trouble. bankers in trouble of losing their livelihoods, their jobs, maybe even their lives. In trouble of losing their livelihoods, their jobs, maybe even their lives. I think it is. I think these are people who were in service to the Rothschilds through, I think JP Morgan, people who were given unwanted flying lessons to the Rothschilds through JP Morgan. They knew too much. They were given unwanted flying lessons without any wings. They knew too much. I think the cabal fascist bankers are cornered. So I think they're limited. I think they're drained. I think the cabal fascist and some of them might face extermination. I think they're limited. I think they're drained. This is the end of the and some of them might face extermination. Blind alleys. This is the end of the running out of road to kick the can. Blind alleys. The can's gone nuclear. But the running out of end of the road for the franchise. Besides the can's gone nuclear, which is the end of the road for the franchise. This is the end of the franchise, which is the Rothschild fiat money. This is the end of the franchise money. Central bank system means fiat money that has a value by declaration. Fiat money means doesn't have money that has a value by declaration. And I like to take a little doesn't have a backing of fiat. Of gold. You don't get I like value to take of a currency by stating of fiat. You get a value, you don't get real value, a value of a currency by stating it. I'm not talking about the forex. You get a value from declaration. That is of it stating it by fiat. I'm not talking about there's a forex value. That is from hidden value. That is from stating it by fiat. The implicit backing. A hidden value. They all have a backing. That's from debt. The implicit sovereign debt. And notice that a year ago, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that suspended the U.S. government debt limit. The U.S. Congress that undermined the dollar as a currency. The U.S. government debt limit. Notice they've always turned down an independent audit of the dollar as a currency. U.S. gold reserves. Notice they've always turned down an independent audit of Fort Knox like U.S. gold reserves. Deep on the storage gold. Department of Treasury, that's nothing more than bare properties of unmined ore. Gold, deep storage gold. The integrity of the dollar is all gone. Properties of unmined ore. The prestige of the Treasury bond is all gone. The integrity of the dollar is all gone. And the usage of J.P. Morgan. The prestige of the Treasury bond is all gone. Stabilization fund and the usage of J.P. Morgan. The CIO and the Department of Treasury fund run by the Department of Treasury. They're both using derivatives to an extraordinary degree. That's why you'll never see an end to the 0%. They're both using derivatives to an extraordinary degree. That's why you'll never see an end to 0%. 4 years running. You'll never see an end of 0% now for 3 years running. 4 years running. You'll never see an end of 0% in the system because now it's important. Cheap as cost-free money in the system to put into their interest rate derivative machinery and produce artificial demand of the 10 and 30-year bond. Interest rate derivative machinery and produce artificial demand the free money of the 10 and 30-year bond. You get these treasury bills put in very short duration. The free money, they're used as you get these treasury bills of very short duration. They're used long-term swap versus short-term swap. That's the essence of the interest rate derivative. And it produces gigantic versus short-term swap. That's the essence of the interest rate derivative. Artificial demand produces treasury bonds. And evidence of this activity is the failures for treasury bonds. And evidence of this activity, and they come up with a propaganda statement to deliver pure BS of treasury bonds. And say that the demand is so strong for treasuries, pure BS, pure nonsense. Wall Street's having a hard time finding adequate supply for treasuries. No one wants to get rid of theirs. Wall Street's having a hard time finding adequate supply because no one wants to get rid of theirs. That's going above and beyond. That's not it at all. What the supply dictates. They have artificial demand above and beyond even above and beyond what the U.S. debt, what the supply dictates, produces above and beyond even lying about what the U.S. debt. They had a recent statement that said produces something like. And they're lying about that also. They had a recent statement was the Treasury. U.S. government $600 billion was the Treasury. And U.S. government that ended in September fiscal year 2000. Take a look at just a basic unadjusted that ended in September nominal. No, it was a lie. Take a look at just the basic unadjusted. So they come up with these adjustments for this, adjustments for that. It went up $1 trillion. You can't put seasonality on a yearly number. Adjustments for this, adjustments for that. There's no. You can't put seasonality on a yearly number. No, it's all 1 year. There's no. So they this year in their lives, season from no, they got a $400 billion lie on the government. They got caught in their lives. for
they got a $400 billion
lie on the government debt.
It's all in the data.
US
It's
government debt
basic
for
as
fiscal
hell.
year that ended in September.
It's
They're
all
getting
in the data.
on their
It's
interest rate
basic as
derivatives
hell.
for
They're getting
failures to
exposed
deliver
on their
Treasury
interest rate
bonds,
derivatives
the 10
for,
and 30 years.
And
I think
to deliver
when China
Treasury
comes
bonds
and
the 10 and
reprices
30
silver
years.
and
I
gold,
think
primarily gold to get the headlines, but also silver because it is a monetary metal. Gold to get the headlines, but also silver because it is a monetary metal. Monetary metal. A lot of bad analysis going to be included that disputes the assumption in the Russian monetary Chinese it's going to be included currency. In the Russian, it's going to be Chinese loaded. I don't know what the ratio is going to be. Currency, not going to be 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1. I don't know what the ratio is. I think it's going to be more like not going to be 25 50 to 1, 60 to 1, 70 to 1. If you look at the, I think it's going to be more like 25 to 1. Oh well, I think a lot of gold enthusiasts would be all for it. But what I'm looking forward to is the hot poker. Oh well, I think a lot of gold enthusiasts would be all for it. But what I'm looking forward to is realize, oh my gosh, we've just seen destroyed. If this sticks, realize, oh my gosh, we've just seen it destroyed. If this sticks, if this sticks, we've just seen a destruction of the Forex derivatives linking to gold. Will be all of them dragging, and that means that the U.S. will be dragging that the COMEX and LBMA have no more gold. The Queen's gold is gone, and the COMEX and LBMA have no more gold. And I know for a fact, Queen's gold based on gone, and the Voice Bank of England. That he's part of a group that's been draining London of gold 1,000 tons a month. He's part of a group since April of 2012. Gold 1,000. So we're going on 30 months now. 30,000 tons have been drained out of London. So we're going on 30 months now. Third world. 30,000 tons have been drained out of London. Scotland wants out. They're being prepared for the third world. They'd rather link up with the North Sea oil wealth. That's one reason Scotland wants out. They don't want to have. They'd rather link up with the North Sea oil wealth enemy of the British and kick off their 1,000-year-old Scots love the British enemy of the British. Anyone who thinks the Scots love the British is brain dead.
Well, you know, this is you have again given us much to chew on. My only concern, Jim, well, you know, this is you have again given us system which obviously my only concern, Jim, is held together like these mayonnaise being applied system here, which there, obviously you know, like cannot be held together like bleeding mayonnaise being applied all here, there, you know, like bandages everywhere that it's bleeding, the body's bleeding all its types of cuts to it, everywhere that the dollar would die at death, the body's bleeding from my concern is cuts to that, like you said, these megalomaniacs. My concern is that take these megalomaniacs down with them, which is why we are starting to see these things. Take a lot of people down with them, which is why we are starting to see these things like the Ebola virus and all that. I don't think that they're going to go quite. Who knows what else might be in store?
Well, clearly not.
I don't think that they're going to go.
I'd like to see some of them at a higher level treated to flying lessons without a parachute or wings. I'd like to see some of them at a higher level treated to flying lessons without a parachute or wings. There was a report 6 or 8 months ago that a high-level Citigroup vice president there was a report was on a hit list 6 or 8 months ago that a high-level Citigroup high-ranking Wall Street banker was on a hit list. Let alone Citigroup. I haven't seen any high-ranking Wall Street banker at that level. Let alone we have seen a false story that Jamie Dimon had throat cancer. We have seen. My joke is a false story that Jamie Dimon had throat cancer. But the other joke is my joke is seek treatment for his cancer. But the other joke is, well, he'll probably seek treatment for his cancer. No, I think there are two things that hold the system together. They're very effective in holding I think there are two things that hold the system together. And they're very effective in holding the system together. And we're seeing them. They're war. The Ukraine war, for those who aren't aware, and we're seeing them precisely. The Ukraine war, for those who aren't aware, when a global currency reset was agreed upon in its initiation by well over 50 nations. When a global currency reset was agreed upon, was going to reestablish well over 50 nations at a higher level. The global currency all the major was going to reestablish the gold. It did not happen at a higher level. We were treated versus all the major forex currencies in Ukraine. It did not happen because we were treated to a new war
to interrupt China
Ukraine.
and their plan for repricing gold at double the current.
To interrupt China
and repricing silver at say triple the current at double.
What new war will we be given?
And repricing silver at say triple the current.
What new war will we be given?
Question that we can speculate upon till the cows come home, but hey, question that we can materialize anywhere in the world, in the Middle East, you know, even in the Far East, materialize anywhere in the world, there, Middle East, and even in the Far East, who knows? Possibility certainly exists that something will materialize, and you're right. The possibility just have to wait and see.
Well, here's a candidate,
and
Iraq.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Well,
Turkey.
Here's a candidate.
Iraq. Turkey would be huge if that's so.
No, I mean one war. In Iraq, Syria,
Turkey would be huge if that's so.
No, I mean one war.
Right now, it's on
in
fire.
Iraq, Syria, Turkey,
the whole region.
And right
now,
I think
you're going to have internal problems. Right now, what I'm hearing is there were. I think you're going to have internal problems. Right now, what I'm hearing is there were, and the current
about 3 or 4
has kept
very
them down
important tribes
for 30 years,
and the current
royal family has kept them down for 30 years.
Fuad gone and King
Abdullah
with
very weak.
Fuad gone.
What we're seeing is
gone and
no strong
very
members.
And
what
the
we're
next
seeing
generation,
is meaning
no
age
strong
60 or so,
members,
age
and
55.
the next generation,
No strong members
age 60
of the
or so,
Fad, age 55.
Fad and Abdullah
no
family,
strong members
brothers.
of the Saad was the older brother, and it went
Fad
to the
and
younger
Abdullah
brother.
family, they're brothers.
And, Fad was
they
the
kept
older brother,
down.
and it went to the
They
younger brother.
suppressed the other families.
The other
They
tribes.
kept down.
And those
They
tribes got
suppressed the
stronger
other families.
while the
The other
Fad
tribes.
Abdullah family
And those tribes
got
got
stronger.
And now you're seeing a
while the
tremendous
Fad
battle
Abdullah
for power.
family got
While
weaker.
at the same time,
And now you're
a lot
seeing
of
a
pressure
tremendous
internally
battle
for
for
power.
reforms.
While at the same
And
time,
here's the
a lot
big
of pressure
zinger
internally
for
reforms.
Saudi Arabia, according to my
And
best source.
here's the big zinger
in the Middle East for Saudi Arabia,
He's
according
lived
to my
in,
best source.
one of the Persian
in the Middle
Gulf
East
nations now
for about 4 years.
He's lived
He
in
said what he's hearing
one of the
is
Persian
the
Gulf
big
nations now for about
zinger
4 years.
force in
He
Saudi
said what
Arabia
he's hearing
is the women.
is the big
They're tired of
zinger
being
force
given second
in
class
Saudi Arabia
citizenship.
is the women.
They're tired of being
They're
treated
tired
by
of
the royals
being given
as
second-class
essentially
citizenship,
toys. They're
and
tired of
slaves.
being treated by the royals.
So they're
as
looking for reform.
essentially
They're looking for
toys
business
and
reform.
slaves.
A lot in the
So they're
business
looking for
community
reform. They're
are
looking
really
for
fed
business
up
reform.
with what they call appropriation.
A lot in the
which
business
is a Saudi
community
royal
are really fed up
coming
with what
into
they
the
call
office
appropriation.
saying,
Which is a
you
Saudi
got a really nice
royal
chain of retail stores
coming into
here.
the
We
office
like it.
and
We want to
saying,
buy it. Here's our price.
you got a really nice chain
And
of
the owner
retail
says,
stores here.
yeah,
we like
but
it.
you're
We want to
offering
buy
me,
it. Here's our
$100
price.
million, and we
And the
all
owner
know that it's
says,
worth 3
yeah,
times
but
that.
you're offering me,
And
$100
then the royal
million,
says,
and
to
we
the
all know that it's
businessman
worth 3
or
times
the
that.
group of owners.
Well, if you don't
And then
take
the
the
royal
100
says
million
to
offer,
the
we might increase
businessman
it to like
and-
130
or the group of
million.
owners.
That's as high as we
Well, if
go.
you don't take the
If you don't
100
do it,
million
we're gonna
offer,
do-
we
have
might
all kinds
increase
of
it
tax
to like
violations
130
on you.
million.
We
That's
might
as high
throw
as we
some
go.
of you in prison
If you don't
for-
do it, we're going to have
whatever
all kinds
we
of
feel
tax
like.
violations on you.
All right,
we
it's
might
called
throw
the
some of you in prison for
fraud.
whatever we feel like.
All right,
What's
it's
the
called
word?
the
Theft,
appropriation
confiscation,
by
fraud.
the Saudi royals. A lot of backlash is
What's the
building.
word? Theft,
For
confiscation,
Islamic reform
by the Saudi royals.
women reform.
A lot of backlash is building.
Appropriation,
For
Islamic reform,
obstacles
women
to
reform,
reform them.
to halt appropriation,
Not reform them. To
stop
stop
obstacles.
So
To
a
reform
lot is
them.
going on. I think
To
Saudi
halt
Arabia is
them.
going to
Not
fall,
reform them,
and
to
you're going to
stop
see new
them.
leaders. But in
So
the
a lot
meantime,
is going on.
all
I think
through
Saudi
this
Arabia is
process,
going to fall.
they're
and you're gonna see
embracing
new
China.
leaders. But in the
And
meantime,
in
all
a matter
through
of
this process,
weeks or months,
they're
you're gonna
embracing
hear
China.
the Saudis that make
And
announcement.
in a matter
that they
of
accept
weeks
payments
or
for
months,
their crude
you're going
oil
to hear the Saudis
in
that make
non-dollars.
announcement that they
And it's going to
accept
cause
payment
a
for their
huge
crude oil
controversy
in
because
non-dollars.
the United States
and it's
the
going to
dollar
cause a
is built
huge
upon the
petrodollar de
because
facto
the United
standard.
States and the dollar
In other words,
is built upon the petrodollar
South Korea
de facto standard.
Belgium,
in other words,
they collect treasury
South
bonds
Korea,
so they can import oil
purchased from Saudi Arabia.
Belgium, they pay
collect
for the
treasury
Saudi
bonds
oil.
so they can
in
import
treasury
oil
bills.
purchased from
They
Saudi
pay
Arabia.
for it in dollars.
They
in
pay
the
for
form
the Saudi
of
oil
vehicle
in
treasury
treasuries.
bills.
So
They
when
pay for
Saudi
it
says
in
you don't
dollars
need
in
to
the
pay
form
us
of
with
the
your
vehicle
treasury bills
treasuries.
anymore, So when Saudi says a lot of nations pay us, they're going to turn around and say we don't need to hold treasuries anymore. A lot of nations, you're going to have a new wave and say we don't need to hold treasuries anymore. A new wave QE4. You're going to have a new wave of dumping of treasuries. Well, we'll cover them all. And a new wave QE4. New printed money. Where the Federal Reserve says, well, we'll cover them all. With what? The other printed money. Nations, like and Kuwait, then comes the shock wave, the aftershock. The Bahrain, other OPEC nations, like Kuwait, UAE, all these Bahrain, Oman, UAE, Qatar, all the other OPEC nations, including the non-Persian Gulf, like Qatar, Nigeria. All the other OPEC nations, they're going to say, including the non-Persian Gulf, what Saudi does. Nigeria, they don't need dollars. They're going to say, we don't need dollars. We're going to do what Saudi does. And then you're going to get another way. They don't need dollars. Treasuries. Hey, well, we don't need dollars to pay. Hold treasuries. And then you're going to get another way. Right now, one of the most nervous nations in the world. These nations hold treasuries. Right now, one of the most nervous nations in the world for their sovereign wealth funds nervous are the Persian Gulf in the world an overweight of treasuries. Wealth funds. They don't know what to do with them all because they got it. And the Saudis made an announcement back in, I think it was August, that they don't know what to do with them all. A new sovereign Saudis made an announcement back in, and I heard August that they're going to create a new treasuries to gold fund. So Saudi is not going to be the U.S. It's to convert treasuries to gold. They've already had their divorce. So Saudi is not going to be the U.S. fully signed partner anymore. And China will be witnessing the signing. And the papers are not fully signed. And China will be witnessing the signing. Saudi Arabia. I think the United States steer their favorite regime change among the rival tribes, and I don't think they're going to steer their favorite.
I wonder if it's going to be the
among
Bin
the
Laden
rival
tribe.
Tribes, and I don't think they're going to succeed. I don't know.
I wonder if it's going to be the Bin Laden tribe.
Let's just leave it at that, okay? I don't know.
All right, Jim. Yes, we regrettably we run out of time here,
okay?
Or running out of time. So before we go, please tell the listeners about your website, your hat trick letter, and how they can subscribe to it.
Sure. I'm the editor of the Hat Trick Letter. It now has 10.5 years. A month ago, I had order number 10,000, which really knocked me back. Wow. I have not held, I got some email afterwards saying, really, you're telling me you got 10,000 subscribers, 10,000 active clients? I said, no. I had 10,000 orders. Now it's 10,200. But I haven't kept them all. Some have come and gone. So it's about a quarter of that are active clients. And it's found on information on the newsletter, and other related information and analysis is found on the goldenjackass.com, www.goldenjackass.com website. On that website, there's a main page. It's an open domain, free domain, no, public domain web page. It's called Main 5, only because it was the fifth version when making it. So main5.html has the date of the posted report coming up. It has a number of recent public articles and a number of recent interviews like this. The newsletter itself, started in April of 2004, has 2 different publications each month. It doesn't alternate. It's 2 per month. One is the Money War Report, Global Money War Report. It's for high-level battles, you know, like the BRICS events, BRICS confrontations, a lot of different things like competitive currency activity, like activity right now to suppress the commodities and suppress oil to lift up the dollar. We're seeing a death event right now in the dollar. This is a death event identified by its rise. It sounds paradoxical. I've been calling for this for 2 to 3 years. It will rise and rise and rise, then die. The U.S. government's going to be forced to print a new currency because the dollar is being rejected overseas. And although the Federal Reserve can cover, these are all things discussed in the Money War Report, because the Federal Reserve can cover the bonds being dumped, that's one thing. But they cannot force supplying nations of all kinds of products that enter the U.S. as imports. They cannot force those nations to accept treasury bonds anymore. They're going to have to come up with something better, something more legitimate. And I think it's going to be a new dollar that I'm calling the Scheiss dollar, which is German for shit. So they're going to have a new Scheiss dollar that gets devaluated. These are the sort of things that will ensure the U.S. economy continues in its import supply. And notice all the outsourcing for the last 30 years that bankrupted the nation and put it dependent on foreign suppliers who now reject the dollar. This is a very precarious position for the U.S. to be in. The second report goes alongside the money war report is what I call the golden currency report. For much more ground level activity, like demand at the mints for gold and silver coin, issues regarding the Indian government and their rules for dealing with the colossal problems that they've had from massive importing of gold that has affected the rupee currency. Lots and lots of different things. Some BRICS developments I cover in the golden currency report, like where's the most recent new RMB hub, which is renminbi hub, the Chinese currency hub. Where's the newest hub going to be established in the Western world for trading yuan for major forex currencies and also for issuing and selling yuan-based bonds. It's a big business. So new Chinese yuan swap facilities are being set up. It's all covered in the golden currency report. So, well, a lot of it's covered. It's hard to get it all. Boy, oh boy. It's impossible to get it all. The reports are getting longer, resembling magazines, but people can just read the chapters that are of their interest. I'm hoping and praying that we see an end to the wars. Ukraine looks like it has a ceasefire in the works, looks like it has an agreement pact in the works that was pretty much set up by Putin and Merkel of Germany. Interesting, Russia, Germany, peacemakers. U.S. was not invited. They were interfering with it at every step of the way.
Thank you for listening, friends. Due to a bad connection with Jim in Costa Rica, this interview was concluded at this point. Thankfully, the interview was almost at an end, and Jim was just in his concluding remarks at that point in time. So once again, this is Paul Sandhu. Thanks for listening, and we'll continue to subscribe to my channel and to share this information with everybody that you can. I do have a couple of new websites that are being developed, signsoftheend.com and wakeupandliveradio.com. Please be sure to check them out as I build them and more information is posted to them. Thanks again. Have a great day.
We all have enough. Darkened secrets we're hiding. We all feel the pain. All alone we've been crying, but we can't find our way into the light. Jesus shows the way out of the darkness. Little games we play, in the darkness to blind us. In our graves we lay, wondering how they could find us. But we can find our way into the light. Jesus showed the way out of the darkness. who can we blame for our dark, hellish prison? Will you speak my name?